Hey, my name is Chris. I'm with Audio Discovery, and today I have a presentation for you that I think you should check out. Now, in the description below is a link to a podcast called Interludes Journal. Interludes Journal is this great podcast that I just ran across a couple of weeks ago that I completely binge listened. And the creator, Sigourney, also known as Siggy Jade, now, she has a different approach to creatives and creation that I think that really is very interesting. And as I listened to her episodes, I was very, very intrigued. Now, I started from episode 1 to episode 9 from the first season and then listened to the second season. And I suggest that you go down to the click the link below and do exactly that. Now, the conversation that I had with Siggy is a kind of a smattering here and there. So essentially, I had presented to her a concept, and then I reacted to the concept as she was presenting it to me. So it's got a bit of editing, and I just want to assure you that the edits are basically just me trying to keep the conversation flowing rather than a few of the stories that I told that I'll eventually tell on this channel over time. But right now I wanted to give all attention to Sigourney from Interludes Journal. So check out this, click the link below and listen to all the episodes. You're going to love what she has to offer. Thanks.
All right. Well, I've started the Zoom recorder, and my name is Chris. I run Audio Discovery channel on YouTube, and I am here with Siggy from Interludes Journal, and this is a podcast that I ran across. I think you had posted it on Reddit as like a music production or something like that, and so I was very intrigued because you have a really interesting perspective where you're using your psychology degree in order to empower musicians. And from the first episode, you had me at the word go. So honestly, I'm really excited to talk to you about, just about you, your channel and everything like that. So hello.
Hi. So I started Interludes Journal about a year ago, and I started it because I kind of felt like there wasn't any resources out there that were kind of useful for aspiring musicians. There were useful things, but it was kind of like the bog standard things, and I wanted to take a more creative, interesting approach. So I decided to use my degree in psychology to kind of help people understand the audience and how the audience reacts to things. And hopefully from that, they can understand how they can push their craft and kind of elevate to that next level. The way in which I do it is using kind of controversial events in the music industry, but that kind of spans between, controversial events in the literal sense, from relationships to like why certain artists don't blow. So it's different kind of levels of controversy, but yeah, everything involved in that really.
Right. And when you mean like if an artist blows, it's like that's how they get popular. They exploded to, right? Is that what I'm interpreting?
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
How they get bigger, how they can kind of push their craft and be seen by a larger audience.
Right. The introduction conversation that we had a few days ago, you said that you produced your intro.
Yes, so I do. I make my own music.
Cool.
I've been making music for about a year now,
Mm-hmm.
but I started off composing. So I play the piano. I taught myself how to play the piano.
Cool.
And it mostly started off as composing and reading up on music theory as well, which is ongoing for me because it's a massive. So if anybody's studied music theory, it is huge and it's just never ending.
Yeah.
So I started composing and all of that stuff, and I decided to put it in my own work in Interlude to kind of showcase it off and just experiment really. I was new to it all, but I wanted to just try it out. So yeah, everything involved in the production, unless it's the instrumental, has been made by me essentially. Yeah.
Awesome. So how did you start to think about psychology in music,
in the context of music,
and then the utility of someone who hasn't necessarily blown yet? So
It's a bit of an interesting one because it's something that it's, when you're sat down and your mind wanders. I do a lot of mind wandering, and a lot of the things that I was thinking about because back in the day I also wanted to be a musician myself, and a lot of the things that I was thinking about was why certain things happen. And when you start asking that, why, what, when, all of this, it's essentially psychology. It's essentially trying to understand the different parts of music and all of that. And if I'm playing an instrument and I get this immense feeling, I want to know, where does that stem from? And I think a lot of people want to know that, because that's where creativity kind of goes off and really transforms into something beautiful. So yeah, it was kind of from that, and it was kind of trying to help myself fit in the industry in some way, and that's kind of what spurred me on to create it.
That's cool. And then, so it was sort of to serve your own, like it was sort of like your own utility. And then you go from that to, hey, this is probably something that would benefit other creators.
Exactly.
That's cool.
It was kind of, okay, I'm having all of these thoughts. I wonder if other people feel the same.
Right.
And could other people benefit from it? And
Yeah.
I was kind of halfway through my degree as well. And I was kind of thinking, you know what? I'm actually good at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can benefit from it. Maybe someone will listen to it and be like, oh, this is really interesting. And then a lot of people always told me, they were like, I love listening to your accent, and you've got a soothing voice. So I thought it's perfect combination. I might as well give it a go.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you know what? One of my favorite things in your first episode, and I called it out the last time that we talked, was the fact that you were like, yeah, you know what? Like, if you got a problem with the accent, then, well, that's on you. I loved it. Well, and it's really great to have that confidence to, that's something that I think plagues a lot of people, is the fact that the confidence to do a thing, regardless of whether or not it's good or bad or anything like that, is, I mean, that's amazing. Like, how did you, when your first episode, you said there was like 6 months of conversations that you had with people that were sort of like getting you, so
prepared for it.
Yeah. So did the confidence come through those conversations? So how did that go on?
It's an interesting thing, and it's something that I actually wanted to get into talking to you about. But the best way for me to explain it is by using a theory. So there's a particular theory called the terror management theory, and it's it's one of those ones where it's used often in society to explain more extreme events, but you can definitely map it onto other areas of life. And it essentially talks about how at some point in our life, we realize that life is finite, and we're kind of spurred on to create significance and purpose within our lives. And so for me, it was the exact same. It was kind of like, I need to find what my value is here. And that kind of gave me a bit of confidence, because it was like, I was no longer looking for things that would get me money and, all these other external factors. Now I had something that I really wanted to expand on, and a lot of confidence comes from finding your purpose in life and that kind of thing. So it's definitely that. But I think also just people around me that were really encouraging, working in radio and all of that was so helpful, because there's other people that are trying to create these other wondrous creative things for themselves, and that really spurred me on as well, I think.
That's great. Yeah. It's having a community of people who are doing a thing, and it doesn't really matter what that thing may be. It could be, you could have like completely, divergent pursuits, but still that you're pursuing something, that
oh my gosh. Yeah.
At the very least, there's like, the sympathetic component, or you understand empathy.
You understand where they're coming from. Yeah. 100%. Like, I often found that you always find that when people are grafting, no matter what field that's in, they're more inclined to help you because they understand where you're coming from. And that's why I always say, always listen to advice from people who are working as hard as you, because they know what it's like, and they know what it's like to have a dream. And that's the biggest confidence booster, to be surrounded by people that are also working as hard as you. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have experience from my like from former bands, you know, when you're working alongside other people to create something, it's been really difficult for me to transition from because I
What
have
did you exactly do? Did you start off in a band?
yeah. So I come from my family is very just musical, you know, in general, right? And so I had great support growing up. Um, my brother, he was interested to play. He was interested to play music, and then he ended up playing professional baseball. I ended up stealing his guitar and taught myself how to play guitar. And basically, what's really interesting was that like I started playing guitar without any, like I just played from ear. I just like, oh, I like that. Let me play along. Oh, this is out of tune. I need to, you know, everything was a utility, right? And then I found other guitar, like I was always looking for a community. I was always like, hey, you play guitar too, cool. And then
Yeah, you have to be like that, really. You do have to push yourself and look for communities that are like you.
yeah, and so then I found like a group of people who were like, well, everybody here plays guitar, you happen to have a bass, would you want to play bass in this band? And then that's how I got started with playing in bands. I was always into rock music, so rock music is very band oriented, and I never really like I couldn't write, I can communicate well, like I know grammar, I know like how to, but I could never like come up with lyrics. I could never come up with I don't have like that voice. So everything that I do is based on music production, but from like I can compose.
Love
And
that.
when I mean compose, I mean like I can sit down and write a riff and then take that you know, rhythmic and melodic idea and expand on it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But when it comes, like, I need to work alongside a singer or, you know, like, and also too, it is so easy when you're in a situation. So one of my longest, one of my friends that he and I have been playing the longest, he like, so he plays guitar. I play either bass or drums. Like I play like a complementary instrument to his.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and my whole purpose in that interaction is because he's very stoic. My purpose is to get him to like emote something. Is just to like, all right, so I'll play a counter rhythm or I'll play off something so that he can either like kind of like nod his head or do something,
Yeah.
you know? And so that makes it easy for me to be able to sort of, you know, I know
improvise.
I know which path I'm on. It gives me like oh, okay. Yeah, I shouldn't do that because he's kind of like, he's making like a, you know, Harrison Ford face, like, you know, so.
Going back to what you actually said about, you know, just making music, having a feel for things. That's so interesting because when I first started out making music, I was trying to be so much by the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking my dad, like, oh, what, you know, how does this sound? And and he was like, it's a feeling, you just have to do it. Don't think too much about it. And it's so important. Like, don't think too much about the logistics of it. Just make something, and honestly, you will create wondrous stuff. So yeah, I resonate with that.
Yeah.
I think as well, like, this is another thing that I really want to research for my podcast is people that just seem to have natural talent.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at people who are just so gifted musical artists, and more or less it's just them being fully immersed in the emotion of the music and just getting lost in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what creates the best music, to be honest with you. The ones
Yeah.
that you're immersed in it and it's a feeling.
Yeah, you know, I have a question. So you focus like some of the artists that you highlighted, at least in the first episode, and like say for instance, because I think you were talking about it was in the introduction that you had mentioned, like, yeah, you know, you have your your artists that you're inspired by, and
Yeah.
these are vocalists, right?
Right. So these are singers. So when I created that episode, we were in a time where, because I'm a massive fan of R&B, I kind of grew up on it.
Right.
And here in the UK, sounds like drill music and rap are more favored than R&B.
Right.
R&B is kind of it's on its way up at the moment, but back when I made that episode, I was really inspired by those artists because I felt like they were doing something that wasn't the norm. You know, more people were making rap than they were making R&B, so I shouted them out for that reason. But since I've kind of made more episodes, I'm more inspired by people that do vocals and are in the bands and, you know, and producing, like my recent episode on Kanye West, because I just think his producing is phenomenal. So it's developed over time, but yeah, that was the reason why I kind of highlighted those artists. Yeah, I would say it's definitely in lyricism. I think with songwriters especially, the ability, I feel like they find their groove when they're able to connect the everyday life with music and really find creative ways to explain what a lot of us go through. So just like being able to flip lyrics and like talk about things in a metaphorical way, I think that's where they find their real groove, and that allows them to just create amazing music from there.
Yeah. So your first episode you were talking about, and I really loved this because it took the onus off of me as a creative, and it put some of the onus about somebody's, whether they blow or not, on the audience. Yeah, I thought that was fascinating, and I'm curious as to know what prompted that, because that's your first episode, and basically you're talking about like, hey, listeners, like if you're a listener, you're likely an audience person, and while you being an audience person, there you have a inherent, you have like an innate need to support artists that are already supported versus supporting artists that need the support. And so what was I wouldn't say the motivation, because I don't think that you're doing it like as a slight.
No, it's
on
more
anything.
so it's for like helping people. It's more so kind of broadening people's knowledge on certain topics. But the reason why I was intrigued, why I wanted to make that, was because I feel like often in this industry, people focus too much on the artist. And why would you do that when you're making music for a listener? Surely the most important person is the audience. So I thought that sparked something in my mind, and I was like, I need to talk about that. And basically some of the things that I talk about in that episode is about how the audience essentially are very, very identified with who they are. And when you are exposed to an artist who has done well, you attach yourself to it. So it kind of gives you a bit of self-esteem.
Yes.
So it pushes the audience to kind of endorse in these artists that are already big, because it says something about them.
Right.
But if you look at a new up-and-coming artist, you don't really know, you don't have statistics that back them. And whilst in some cases people will look at that and they'll be like, oh, you're only supporting them because you want to be different.
Right.
Well, that's the whole point of it. People want to they want to feel like they are edgy, and the easiest way to accommodate that is to support these bigger artists, essentially.
Right. And then the other thing, because I identified with that because when I grew up, I remember having a little bit of that like pride of like, you guys don't listen to what I listen to. You guys aren't, you're not hip on this.
Yeah.
And
it boosts your self-esteem. It gives you a little bit, it gives you a conversation opener. It allows you to understand yourself a lot better.
Right. But then if you said that if a artist does not perform, like if they after a while start to kind of nosedive into obscurity, then that's a hit on our ego.
Yes, because essentially you've identified with their original sound, and now when they switch it up, it kind of puts your audience in a state of confusion, because what you thought was amazing, you subconsciously think, oh, this person doesn't think that's the sound anymore. So it takes a hit on your ego, and you essentially have to think about, oh, am I really into this artist, or am I really into into what this artist does for my ego?
Right. And a good one of my friends and I, we argue all the time about Metallica. Okay, so bear with me, because I know I'll have to sort of present to you the timeline for Metallica, and then it'll make sense. Because Metallica were underground in the 80s. They started in 81, but their first album was in 83, 84, 86, and then 88 or 89, I think. And then they got really famous with their a music video from the album in 89. And then they came out with a really big album in 91, which is like one of the biggest albums of all time. So, or I should say biggest metal albums of all time. It's constantly being referred to as sort of like when metal got mainstream. The album that they did after that, they cut their hair. They had their music had been sort of like they were like, yeah, you know what? If you want metal, you listen to Metallica, Master of Puppets. It's, super, heavy, hardcore, blah, blah, blah. Still to this day.
Yeah.
And then they went from those 5 albums, and then that 6th album, that's where people drew a line in the sand. And my friend and I have all these like arguments, because I was like, yeah, I heard that album and I said, Dunzo, I'm on to some new stuff. And, I was listening to like prog metal at that point. I was listening to way more intricate stuff, where I grew up. One of my first songs that I ever learned was Metallica. And when I was telling you about like sitting down and learning how to play, it was to Metallica. But then I was just like, yeah, I identified with them up to this point. Boom, done. I'm on to some new, some new mess.
The ego kicked in. Yeah. 100%. It's hard to assimilate yourself when artists make that crazy next jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's such an interesting story.
Yeah.
But what you said actually about the audience and that kind of thing, it's such a debate, because it's like, should the artist should have freedom to explore what they want to explore, but ultimately you're making music for the audience. See, it's kind of like, what do you do? How do you balance that out? I am, for example, like, I'm a massive Frank Ocean fan, and I didn't resonate with his more recent stuff. And then it was somebody who came to me and they were like, that they're an artist, they should be able to do what they want. And it made me think that's so true. But still, I'm like, oh, I love that original sound. But yeah it's true.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I thought it was a great episode, and I really like, that's kind of like because I love it in that, and I know that you did it for this reason, because it allowed for somebody to get out of their own way and to not worry about what other people are going to do or say. It's basically saying, do what you're going to do, because the audience will either follow you. Well, I don't know. I feel this way about it. I feel like the audience will either follow you, or you will gain a different type of audience, right?
100%.
Because everybody's listening for something, as long as it's good quality and authentic.
Exactly. And I feel like most people listen to music because it's attached to experiences. And sometimes if you can still deliver that same experience, you can get away with pretty much making whatever you want. Yeah,
that's awesome. So I'm looking through the list of episodes, and I'm just reminded like some of the topics. So that originality is dead, which is the second one, which I was fantastic, because my conversations with fellow musicians is one of the things that was really interesting. And I don't know if you've ever read, there's a book called Your Brain on Music.
I have. I
Daniel
actually
Levitin.
have that. I actually have that here.
Yeah.
It's such a great book.
It's amazing. It's such a great, And so, and I was cover to cover in a few days. It was amazing.
It really was. Yeah.
And in it, and I started to hearken back to that book when you were like, yeah, you know what? There are what people do with their music. And I love that you took it into a psychological direction because of the way that, we do music that we want to connect with the people around us that are doing similar. Why am I a rock band? Why do I want to do the rock thing? It's like originality is kind of dead because we're trying to get ourselves into the community.
Well, it's all about imitation. A lot of psychologists have looked into this and social influence, but it goes back to what I was saying about self-esteem. Often we as humans don't like uncertainty. And the music industry is one of the biggest uncertain industries out there.
Absolutely.
And if you want to be successful, you often look, basically, the uncertainty reduction theory, it's kind of our way of reducing uncertainty. And how we do that is we gain information. So we gain information about something we don't understand, and we try and gain enough information so that we can now be experts in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is that you begin to imitate other people in order to kind of self-identify and kind of push your craft, but also kind of increase your self-esteem. And that's kind of the central thing that's happening. But what people don't understand is when you're imitating this person because you think, oh, this is going to get me followers and I'm going to understand the true me, it's not actually you. And then you create copycat music that everybody's heard, which is not bad. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you can't sustain longevity with that. Like after a while, your audience is going to want to hear something new. As human beings, we love to hear novel ideas. So
there are audience members who want to know or be exposed to newer music, that want to, but at the same time, I think that it's incremental. And what I got from that book, that Your Brain on Music, is that it's like a ladder. You can't rocket into a new genre. You have to sort of have like a stepping stone. Here's this person did, because say for instance, there's like I guess gateway, right? Like, how like gateway drug, it's like, there's like gateways into newer types of things. You start with like whatever your baseline is, right? Pun intended. You start with like wherever, I came from a rock background, but other people would be like either a rap background or an R&B background. And then something becomes novel, but it's still mixed in with that thing.
Yeah. And then once you listen to it a little bit more, it becomes familiar to you.
Yeah.
And then you kind of start to like it. There's actually a lot of theories that look into that. There's one called the mere exposure theory, which says that we like things that we're familiar to. And yes. I can definitely see how that kind of kicks in after a while. Because at the first point, you're averted to it because you don't know it. But then when you start to hear it a bit more, it's not even so much that you like it, but because you're familiar to it, it kind of sets something in your brain where you're like, oh, that sound. And then you start to like it a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that happens too with the timbre of instruments as well. So say for instance, because I was a huge fan of Jimi Hendrix, right? And so he played Fender Stratocasters, right? The guitar that my dad had that was readily available for us to kind of tinker with, we weren't supposed to, but we every so often would pick it up, is a nylon string acoustic guitar that doesn't sound anything like rock music, right? So then we go to this music shop, they plug the guitar that I saw Jimi Hendrix play into an amplifier and then put the distortion on. And when that happened, I went, whoa, dude, this is rock music. It didn't matter. It did nothing, like nothing else, whether the strings were in tune, whether I wanted that sound. It was the sound. I was connected and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I would try to play, and it didn't matter that I was terrible. It didn't matter that I couldn't hold down the notes well. The string was buzzy. I was still just enthralled with trying to get my fingers, my dumb 9-year-old fingers to like, how does this thing, how can I,
it's
coordinate?
It's the feel goodness to it. It's the vibration. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And something about having, so that the timbre I connect with a lot. And like, say, for instance, if I listen to like a Stevie Wonder album, specifically Intervisions to me was like, I was so that the keyboard sound that he gets from, it's just this real thick, nice, lush keyboard sound.
It's phenomenal.
It's amazing.
When I was learning to play piano, I was all across YouTube trying to find things out. And one of the things that they said, they were talking about artists who just have this great sound. Stevie Wonder came up, and obviously he can't see the keyboard. And it's interesting what they were saying, because they were like, when you create, you can't be looking at it. You have to just feel for it and go with it. You should be able to play without even looking at the piano. And it's so interesting because Stevie Wonder's phenomenal. And it's like, that's so true, because if he can't see the piano and he can create such wondrous things, then we shouldn't either. We should just be feeling for it and going with the flow and seeing what comes out. And your fingers get used to it.
My and this I think is a really good tangent, because I see on going back to Reddit and some of the threads, there's a lot of people that want to take a rocket ship into success. They want to cut through the BS and the jargon. Just tell me what I need to do in order to get famous. Tell me what I need to do to get money. And but it's really interesting, because it's like, when you see an artist, even the young ones, I think of a person who has their brain is wired in a way that is maybe, they have a little bit more emphasis on the audio, like their auditory.
Do you know what though? I would disagree, because I would say it's nurture, because I feel like younger musicians have so many tools at their they have so many tools to create. And back in the day, you didn't have all of that, so you really had to go with feeling and gut and what was innate within you. But I feel like there's just so much equipment now that you can just take advantage of that and really hone in on your skills.
Oh, no doubt. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that there is, I'm saying, like, you don't have a disability. Okay. You know what I mean? You're not, because roll of the dice, I'm out of the womb, and I have, a restriction, I have restrictive capillary function in my auditory cortex. I'm not going to get the same amount of
exposure like others. And
you know what I mean? And then what happens is that I think it's a way that we work. We just go towards the things that we are successful at. We get a positive feedback loop of successful, like, if you're not good at X, then do Y instead. Right. So if you're not, so then when people, I know people who are that are great keyboardists, right? That they can type well, it's like, okay, well, you should be able to, like, run the 88s. You know what I mean? Like you should be able to just, but so you have the capacity, but you don't have the connection from your brain and your like, I want to play a major scale, or I want to play a minor scale, or I want to do, this kind of thing. And when I see the people on the internet on threads that are like, all right, well, I just want to know, I think all the people who have had that exposure, I sit down and I hear this thing and I want to connect with it. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are just like, I just want to know
how to get there, how to be successful.
I just want to know the combination lock. Like, give me the numbers, like, and I will unlock my potential. And it's like, dude, you got to sit down and think about what you like about the thing, and then just do that and feel it.
But you know what? I think a lot of that is to do with how easy things are to acquire nowadays in society. Like, it's so much easier to get big off creation. And when you see somebody doing that, you want to do it too.
Yeah.
It kind of feeds into that whole instant gratification thing. Just wanting to experience things immediately. And it's so funny because there are so many different explanations for why we want that. But yeah, I see where you were going with that. I do get what you mean.
Yeah, and also because it's like I want to reach through the internet and just give them a hug and be like, hey man, or person, whoever, like, just it's gonna take the time. And the other thing too is that a lot of the attitude that I see with it that comes with some of that stuff is like, you got to be nice to people, man. Like, you got to feed into the community, be somebody who people want to help, versus just
don't be so cutthroat. Well, I agree.
Don't kick in the door to say, hey, I'm here now, where's my millions?
It's kind of like networking, isn't it? You have to nurture those relationships and things like that. And yeah, I do get what you're saying. Like, a lot of people want it here and now, but you have to be a nice person. People help people that they like.
Absolutely. Oh man, tell me about some of the conversations that you were having with that 6 months lead up into Interludes Journal.
So a lot of the conversations were just kind of with my peers, really. People who were also kind of making music. It was more so people making music because I wanted to understand how they operate and what kind of things drives them. But a lot of the conversations were about audio as well, creating great audio and making sure things sound clear and things like that. But yeah, I had a lot of great conversations. A lot of the episodes are actually people who suggested them to me. So a lot of people that I spoke to, they were like, you should talk on K-pop, you should talk on this. And that gave me a lot of confidence and a lot of boost. But it allowed me to kind of broaden my horizons, because I did want to take an approach of just thinking about the audience. But when other people were like, well, actually talk about contracts and talk about the emotion of the body and what that means when you're making music and all of that. And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, that would be so good. And then that really spurred me on to create a lot of the episodes that are in season 1.
Yeah, no, it was a magnificent season. I'm so looking forward to the second season. I already heard the Kanye podcast, and I need to go over it again because and I like that, you take it in a different direction.
Yeah, I'm doing more of a storytelling type avenue with this one. I feel like throughout life, you just want to experiment and you want to kind of create content that can resonate in different ways. And this was just my way of kind of going to that next level. And yeah, I'm creating more of a fictional type storytelling vibe, but the same. It's communicating the same kind of messages and helping up and coming artists and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. And so you already have your episodes already sort of mapped out, or? How do you do that?
So not really. I create episodes beforehand, but a lot of it is improvisation and a lot of it is there are some scripts, but
Love it.
I kind of, a lot of it is just what I'm feeling and what comes to mind. So which is actually why I struggled the first season, because it was like I was doing it weekly, and I was like, oh no, that like how can I get everything in? And so this second season I'm doing it monthly so that I have more time to kind of talk about what I want to talk about.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of my process beforehand.
That's awesome. How much like time does it take you to develop? So how much time did it take you to develop the Kanye episode?
A while. So I was working on the Kanye episode for about 4 months, because I'm getting into quite intricate details about bipolar disorder and different things. And I put a lot of research into it because it's really important for me to only put information out that has been tested.
Right.
So it's a lot of trial and error, looking into things, peer reviews. Does this make sense? What's the counter argument? So it took me about 4 months to write the Kanye one. But in other ones, like previous episodes in season 1, it depends how much I know about the topic. So I knew a lot about mumble rap, so I was able to talk about it quite freely, and I didn't need to put too much information into it. But with the other ones, it was kind of like, oh, I need my scientific knowledge to be sound with this. So yeah. Right.
Sound. I like that. Pun intended. So I know you're coming up on a hard stop. We had like a technology hard stop. But anyhow, yeah. I'm this, like when we were talking about like how we were going to do the episode, this went, I guess, like 300% better than I thought it was going to go. Not on yours, like not because I wasn't thinking that you weren't going to have, be a compelling person, but I just think that, yeah, I'm really glad that, things worked out. Technology ended up working out well.
I know.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. It was so smooth.
Yeah, it was definitely. So I'm hoping to, invite you on the channel again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for reaching out. Like, it's been amazing to talk about the work that I do and like people that are passionate about the kind of same things I am.
Absolutely. So, yeah. I think you're doing a great service to people. That's why I've been such a fan. So I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm going to be posting about audio discovery because I think what you're doing is fantastic as well.
Well, I hope I'm like able to sort of match the concept, because I know like I have, and we were talking about, I had mentioned to you before, it was like, this is like, it's a mishmash of a bunch of different things, but I kind of wanted it to be, hey, it's like, there's just a lot of different things that you can be interested in, not just necessarily the performance or the playing of music, but also these other things that, go into it.
Yeah. And I hope that I was able to deliver some kind of different perspective to your channel.
100%. It's fascinating. And I hope that, I'm going to post a link to Interludes Journal on the Soundcloud absolutely. So I encourage, and actually I'm going to do sort of like a bumper at the beginning to sort of like just mention like, yeah, you should, definitely listen to you. You've got some great, you just got some great content, and I think it's just going to get better. So
thank you so much. It's been amazing talking to you. Thank you.
All right. Well, take care. Stay on the line, and we will just kind of like, I'm going to cut the thing.
Okay.
So, but thanks everyone for listening and watching, and hope to see you soon. Go to Interludes Journal, SoundCloud. The link is below. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.